The world expected Finland to fall in weeks. A tiny nation of just 3.5 million people facing the Soviet Union's massive army, over 1 million soldiers, thousands of tanks, and a seemingly unstoppable force. Yet, in the bitter winter of 1939, the impossible happened. Finland didn't just survive, it humiliated the Red Army and reshaped the strategies of Europe's superpowers. This is the story of the Winter War, where courage, cunning, and snow turned the tide against a superpower. To understand the Winter War, we need to understand the stakes. Stalin wanted a buffer to protect Leningrad, and Finland's forests, lakes, and frozen terrain stood in his way. The Soviets assumed victory would be swift. The Finns, outnumbered and outgunned, were expected to surrender within weeks. But the Finns had something the Soviets didn't: knowledge of the terrain, adaptability, and a refusal to yield. Their forests and frozen lakes were not just land, they were weapons. The Soviet advance on November 30th, 1939. The Red Army invaded. The first assault seemed unstoppable. Columns of infantry marched across open snowfields. Tanks rumbled down frozen roads. Artillery shells tore into the forests. The Soviets believed they were bringing a modern army against a primitive, tiny nation, and the Finns would crumble. Instead, Finnish ski troops struck with precision, striking, disappearing, and reappearing behind enemy lines. They called it motti, a tactic of isolating enemy units in the forest and destroying them piece by piece. The Soviets were trapped by their own arrogance and the harsh winter. The Battle of Suomussalmi became a defining moment. Entire Soviet divisions, over 13,000 men strong, were decimated by small Finnish units moving swiftly through forests and across frozen lakes. Tanks sank into ice, supply lines froze, and morale collapsed. Finnish snipers like Simo Häyhä, White Death, took hundreds of Soviet lives from hidden positions in the snow. These weren't just soldiers, they were ghosts, blending perfectly with the winter landscape, striking fear into a superior army. The Red Army faced catastrophic losses. Poor leadership, logistical failures, and brutal frostbite claimed more men than the Finns themselves. Whole battalions were immobilized, unable to advance. The Soviets had not anticipated that snow and forests could be lethal. Stalin had to rethink his strategy, reorganize his forces, and face the reality that Finland could not be crushed quickly. Despite the overwhelming odds, the Finns adapted constantly. Small, agile units used the terrain as cover. They turned frozen lakes into killing grounds and forests into traps. Every misstep by the Soviets was exploited. The Finns fought not just with weapons, but with strategy and an intimate understanding of their environment. The war became a lesson in asymmetrical warfare. Numbers alone could not guarantee victory. Terrain, morale, and ingenuity mattered as much, sometimes more, than tanks and artillery. The Winter War did more than preserve Finland's independence. It forced Hitler to reconsider his eastern plans, delaying German confidence in Operation Barbarossa. It showed the world that even a small, determined nation could resist a superpower. Though Finland eventually ceded some territory in the peace treaty, the war became a symbol of resistance. The Soviets had been humbled, and the world took notice. Imagine the landscape: endless snow, biting cold, forests shrouded in mist, and the constant thunder of artillery. Against these odds, a tiny nation refused to surrender. Their courage, determination, and knowledge of the land turned desperation into triumph. This was a war not won by overwhelming force, by ingenuity, endurance, and the will to survive. The Winter War may not dominate history books like Stalingrad or Normandy, but its lessons endure. It showed the power of terrain, morale, and innovation. It proved that even the smallest nations could shape history. Finland didn't just defend itself, it sent a message to the world. Bravery, strategy, and resilience can defy even the mightiest army. If you enjoyed this story of courage against impossible odds, subscribe and hit the bell for more cinematic history, exploring the battles, empires, and legends you've never heard of.